Behold, it's Natalia. Let's go find some monkeys, shall we?
Would you say sex is like riding a bicycle?
Nothing gets me going like Christmas and wigs. Let's check out this show.
I remember the first creature I beheld. He was a squirrel. His name was Kevin.
I heard you need a DNA sample.
I want to find light and joy in things that bring us together and unite us. And I think science is something that can unite us. Ow. God damn.
There's a world out there, a world that needs to be beheld.
Behold, and welcome back to another episode of Survival of the Filthiest. I'm your host, biological anthropologist, and comedian, Natalia Reagan. And I created this show because what the futz is happening in this country? I mean, folks, we have a war on science, healthcare, DEI, people of color, gays, bays, jetways, veterans, queers, engineers, the vaxxed, paperbacks, teachers, creatures, women, and global health. So what better way to resist than to talk to scientists, comedians, and educators about what kind of good trouble they're creating to make sure that we move forward rather than 5,876 steps back. And here's a quick reminder to please like, subscribe, and ask any questions in the comments below. We'll get to them if we can. And today we're talking about global health and Gaza. And before I go too far, let me please say this. I have condemned and will continue to condemn the brutal massacres and kidnapping of hostages and holding of hostages on October 7th, 2023 in Israel. I condemn the current holding of the Israeli hostages by Hamas, and I will encourage them to be released. Always. I've also condemned I will also have condemned and will continue to condemn the rising anti-Semitism we're seeing here in the US and beyond. And I hope others continue to do the same. Today, though, we are going to be talking about the current state of emergency in Gaza. Over 50,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces so far, with nearly a third of the dead under the age of 18. A 2-month ceasefire in January meant a moment of calm, but since that ended in March, over 700 Palestinians have been killed. My dear friend, ER doctor, global health expert, Dr. Ayesha Khan, had an opportunity to go to Gaza as a UN humanitarian aid worker last November. Now, I remember receiving a text from her alerting all her friends that she was going to Gaza. And honestly, folks, my heart leapt into my throat. I adore this woman. I was nervous for her, but I wanted to show my support. I knew that she would make a much needed positive impact as an ER physician, and as a humanitarian, she would carry and share what she witnessed when she returned home. Ayesha is a wonderful storyteller, and this story needs to be told. What Ayesha saw was heartbreaking. I was on a secured text thread with her while she was away, and we were devastated by all the heartbreaking images she was sharing, much of which is not covered because Gaza is often too dangerous for journalists, and they're specifically targeted by the IDF, which is terrifying and also a brilliant tactic to hide atrocities so they can continue to dehumanize and exterminate Palestinians. Here, I'm going to go through some slides, by the way, of some images she shared. Forgive me, folks. This is a work in progress. Hold on one second. So here is Ayesha arriving here in Gaza, and you can just see the devastation and sort of this eerie tableau where she's there, and you see a toddler just walking in the background with its parent, or perhaps an extended family member in the background, because a lot of parents have been killed. Here's some more devastation here in Gaza. And here are, people still finding joy amongst the devastation, and finding joy where you can in nature. She was not too far from the coast, and here are some children finding a chance to play. Here she is walking on the beach, and I remember her even saying that she hopes to come back one day and run on the beach and enjoy it without fear of, being attacked. And here are, again, some children finding some joy in the simple things in life. I love this image because a lot of the population of Gaza are quite young. But here are two old fellas just sitting on the beach. And it just feels like you're on Brighton Beach in New York, and here they are in Gaza finding a moment of serenity. And then she sent me these beautiful pictures of children. And I love this series of photos because you see the little girls, a little shy at first, almost looking to get approval to be silly, and then being silly. And here are some other kids playing in the rubble. Again, finding joy when there's just devastation. And I mean, these pictures of these could be anybody's children, right? This child, I swear to God, it makes me smile, but it also breaks my heart because here he is. I mean, like he could be a GQ model, this kid, and still finding some sort of joy amongst, the shambles of his country. And kids again finding joy in refugee camps. And here is my beautiful friend Ayesha Khan treating patients. And some of these images will get a little rough. So a little trigger warning. There is some blood in a couple. I didn't include all the photos, but some of them. But here we have, kids being treated, bullets being removed from civilians, more children being treated, head wounds, kids, healing up thanks to Dr. Ayesha. Kids being shown the joys of an iPhone, something that they don't necessarily get a lot of access to in Gaza. And this is a very devastating image. Again, trigger warning for those that don't want to see blood, but it's the devastation of children in Gaza is real. So Aisha also wrote a wonderful article for the New Yorker entitled "The Girl Who Gave Me Hope for Gaza," and this article came out one day before the ceasefire ended. I remember she sent it to a group of us and we were like, oh my God, we're so proud of you. And it tells the story of this young girl named Sela. There she is. I don't know. I hope the video will play, but she tells the story of Sela, a girl that she helped save. And this little girl, she still keeps in contact with. And if the video doesn't play, maybe we can figure out a way to make it play during the rest of the show. But let me see. This
That's
might
cool.
not play. But I will say this, she does say, Dr. Ayesha, I love you. I don't think it's gonna play, but we'll figure that out. Anyways, I'm thrilled to have my friend on the show. So more about Dr. Ayesha, I just have to sing her praises. And I've never said her middle name, so I hope I say it correctly. Dr. Ayesha Sahila? Saleha. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. Saleha Khan. A board-certified emergency medicine physician, public health practitioner, and associate professor of emergency medicine at Stanford University. She has worked to build health systems capacity in 13 regions around the world, including Haiti, Cambodia, Mongolia, Zimbabwe, India, Lesotho, Myanmar, Rohingya, I hope I said that right.
Refugee camps, yeah.
Refugee camps, and Gaza. Dr. Khan lived and worked in, I hope I say this right too, Al-Aqsa?
Alexa, yeah, you got it.
Alexa, hospital in central Gaza from November 26th to December 28th, 2024. So please, people of the internet, help me welcome my beloved friend, my hero, and my global health expert friend, Dr. Ayesha Khan. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on your show. This is such an honor.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it was a no-brainer before you went to Gaza that we needed to talk about what you do because global health is so incredibly important and you've done such outstanding work around the globe, and I just want to know a little bit more so the folks at home can know your story. You are a doctor. What made you want to become a doctor in the first place?
Okay, so I had a feeling you were going to ask me this question. So here is my super uninspiring story of how I became a doctor, and you will have to forgive me for how lame the entrance into medicine was, but how I really actually ended up doing what I wanted. So when I was younger, so we were immigrants into this country. I was 3 years old when I moved to the U.S. and my career scope, the words that I had for what I wanted to do were like doctor, teacher, fireman, police. Like it was all of these things that people do that I had seen. But I think if I had had the words for it, what I would have said I wanted to do was international development work. I had this desire from a very young age to make things equal in the world. I was 3 when I came here, so I had, some memory of what Pakistan was like. And then in the summertime, or when we would have vacation, we would sometimes go back. It was a very different world from the world I was living in the U.S. And it didn't seem fair that emerging from the same primordial stew, we all had soup. I guess maybe it wasn't thick enough to be a stew. The same primordial soup.
It was viscous, whatever it was.
It was viscous, yeah. like we had such different circumstances just based on the fortunes of birth, you know, and in the US people had so much and in Pakistan they had so little. And I thought I really want to be engaged in making this more equal. And my thought for how to do that was like, I'm going to work for the UN. Did not know what I was going to do. Like, I would say to my dad, I'm going to work for the UN. And he'd be like, that's great. What are you going to do for the UN? You know, like, it's a place, not a thing that you work
Yeah.
at. Um, so, like, that's what I knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to work in education. I thought that if we can make educational systems around the world, um, it would give people a chance to have an opportunity at a better life. So, my plan for this was to become a teacher and then somehow get like maybe a PhD in education and go into working for the UN. Like what that leap was, I didn't know. That I started by majoring in English, and as soon as my English teachers found out that my plan was to become an English teacher, they were like, "Don't do that. Being an English teacher is horrible." Like,
I love the
that's the
honesty,
last thing.
you
Yeah, they
know?
were like, "It's the last thing you wanted to do." And then,
Get out.
towards like freshman year, sophomore year, I was like, "No, no, I want to teach. I want to be a teacher. I love
And
teaching
where were you
people."
going to school at this point?
Oh, I went to 4 different universities, but that's another story. That's going to take another hour to get into. But
Copy that.
yeah, University of San Diego, and then I was at University of British Columbia. And in both places, across the 2 borders of the Canada and the US, everyone said, "Don't be an English teacher." So at the last
It's
minute,
the
I
one
was
thing we can
like,
agree on.
right. Yeah, the one thing the US and Canada can agree on. So sad that that's even a thing now. Um, so, like, I decided that I would take the MCAT, which is the medical college admissions test, because one of my teachers was like, "Well, you're good at science, so you should probably become a doctor," which is like not the reason to become a doctor. So I was like, "Okay, whatever. I'll take this. If I score well enough, I'll apply." And the MCAT actually has 3 sections. So it has physical sciences, biological sciences, and English. Most people that want to become doctors, they do great at the physical and biological sciences and not so well at English. I killed it at the English like portion. And so my overall score was really high because I had been studying English this whole time. And I applied to med school and I got in. And that is my totally uninspiring story of how I got into medicine. But once there, the desire to sort of help the less opportuned, let's say, the people in our community who are marginalized was very, very dominant in me. And I went to medical school in Detroit, where 80% of the population was uninsured or underinsured, and all those people got taken care of in the emergency department. So I chose emergency medicine for that reason. And then once I did emergency medicine, global health seemed like you know, the next path forward. So I did a fellowship in global health, and that's how I got involved in doing global health work. So somehow kind of ended up in international development anyway, just in a very roundabout way.
Oh, I love that though. I mean, that's like I feel like that's the best kind of way we end up somewhere is just this
Yeah,
haphazard path. It's not linear. It's all over the place. It looks like a
yeah.
brambly bush than a straight line.
It's like that game Plinko on The Price is Right, where like,
Yeah.
and like every single time I got nudged somewhere else, but then I ended up right where I was supposed to be. And funny
Right?
enough, like in because of Gaza, I got to work with the UN. That was like, my first time, of course, going with the UN. And then when I came back, I did the like sort of circuit talking to all the UN agencies, went to New York, got to talk to the Secretary General, which was like such an honor. And I was at the UN building and I was like such a fangirl. And I was like a fangirl with every sign that said UN. And I was like, wait, take a picture of me in front of this, take a picture of me in front of this. And my friends were like, you're such a nerd. Like, chill out. All it does is say UN. And I'm like, I know the UN.
I want that. I need these photos. I feel like we need to
Oh,
do like a collage of Aisha
UN
UN.
pictures.
No, it would be
Yeah.
so great. I also want to point out, like, so English was not your first language, right? And
Was
boy did
not.
and that also is impressive that English is the thing that like put you over the edge with the MCAT that you were like, I know all the things.
I
Excuse
know.
me, get out of my way. Like,
I was like, write an essay. Will I ever?
yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly. Hold my
yeah.
Kool-Aid. I'm coming right at you. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it makes me so happy that it's wild how you have these dreams as a kid and then, the path that you go on doesn't make any sense, but somehow you still ended up in the UN, in the building, doing the work that
No.
you set out to do. It's bonkers to me. Thank God you're not an English teacher. I mean, I don't know,
Oh my
that could be the
god.
next
Yeah.
career, right? Like, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, being an English teacher in the US education system is indeed a very difficult thing. I think my teachers nailed it with that. So
I feel like global health English teacher at this point in time are almost on par with each other for
that's true.
difficulty.
That's true. They're both under
But
attack, that's for sure.
exactly, and so I wanna talk to you about your opportunity to go to Gaza. So how
Mhm.
from what I know, this is something you wanted to do. You went after this opportunity, and how did this come about?
Okay, so I have this thing where if things aren't fair, I'm like, "Hey, that's not fair. We gotta fix that." And the first thing that struck me about the situation in Gaza is, of course, this horrible thing happened. October 7th happened. It was awful. Um, and like people sometimes say, like, well, why don't you go help Israel or why? And I am not opposed to helping anybody who is disproportionately affected by anything, but the truth of the matter is there's excellent medical care in Israel. There's very little need for doctors to go volunteer in Israel. And quite honestly, like the acute need after October 7th was minimal, and they were able to handle it. Gaza had actually a very good healthcare system, but once it started to be systematically dismantled by the bombing and targeting of hospitals, they were very much in need of outside help. And I knew that it was really difficult to go. I kind of signed up with some, agencies that I thought might get me there, but it is very difficult to go. Between signing up and actually going was one entire year.
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow.
and actually like a couple of interviews in which I was turned down. So it's not easy to go. I think one thing that people don't realize is that everything going in and out of Gaza is incredibly restricted. The entire border has a blockade around it. And so, in order to go in, you have to be on the UN bus, on a UN convoy. You have to have a seat assigned to you that is assigned to you after the Israeli operations intelligence, which is called COGAT, after COGAT clears you. COGAT clears you, and still you undergo 4 different checkpoints before you can go
Wow.
into Gaza. Yeah. So it's a very long and arduous process. There's really just a handful of us who have been. I think we're all on a group thread. Um,
Yeah.
like we're and like some people have gone more than once. But the other thing of it is when you go, you have to go for 1 month, and it's really hard in the US to get a month off, or to get your work to cooperate with you going for 1 month. And so all of those things had to align before I was able to go.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember you wanted to go. I remember hearing that you wanted to go when you, I think, first applied, and that it took that much time. And what was also devastating is that the opportunity was still there a year later.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
also what is so hard to, I think, wrap our heads around. Is it's been 18 months of
Mhm.
Gaza in crisis. So I want to know, when you arrived. I mean, I was fortunate to receive photos and updates. But what was it like when you arrived? I know that you said you had to go through these checkpoints, but
Mhm.
like the hospital, what was the hospital like? How were the doctors living?
Okay, so Gaza is a about 25-mile strip of land. So it's like long and skinny, the same way California is. And northern Gaza, that's like that's like the LA or San Francisco of Gaza. It's called Gaza City. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
the people who are from there, they're like, we have to live in central Gaza now because like
they've
Gaza
been.
City is destroyed. Like there's a little bit of a like air of like we hate the South. And it's like it's very cute because it's like yeah, like I mean the things that people are still concerned about,
Yeah,
like they're just like very human concerns, but there's sort
absolutely.
of a Yeah, there's sort of a like, if you're from Gaza City, it's like being from New York City. Like, why would you go live in like, I don't know, Shreveport, Louisiana, if you are from New York City? But if you're
Yeah.
forced to, you have to do it. So,
It's like
so
a
when
Schitt's Creek situation,
exactly, no, that's
right?
exactly it. So when I went into Gaza, first of all, you're driving through Israel. Fly into Jordan, and you drive through all of Israel, which is, USA light. It's like highways, stores, everything very much like the US. And then all of a sudden you get to what they call the security wall, which is this like very large wall that has it's like blockaded off Gaza from the rest of the world, basically. And you have to go through these barricades in and out, weaving in and out, because it's not like very easy. And there's an Israeli military convoy with you, so in front of you and after you. And then once you weave through, then the bus stops, and then everybody unloads, and you get into these UN jeeps. So the bus splits up, and about two or three of you get into these UN jeeps. And in your UN jeep, there is one UN guard, and there's like two or three of you, and everyone kind of like radios, and then you like depart together. So it's this convoy. And you enter into Gaza, and it's just like devastation. Like, I thought what you see on the news, where it's like there's a building collapsed, was created in a way that the camera is like focusing on the collapsed building. But actually, all of Gaza is like that.
Wow.
Like, you can see from, Khan Yunis, which is like kind of the first city you enter, you can see straight through to the ocean, which is like 30 miles
Wow.
away, because all the buildings have been wiped out. And you go on this road, and much of it is really empty because everything's been destroyed. There's no people living there. And you get to, like, we finally got to our hospital, which there's a gate and you go into the hospital, but surrounding the hospital are these quote refugee camps, but they're not officially set up refugee camps. So one of the things that, as I mentioned, was that everything going into and out of Gaza is extremely restricted. And there's this thing called the dual use list. So, dual use list is things that could potentially be used for nefarious purposes, and so they don't allow them in. One of the things on this list is tents, because the tent pole that holds the tent up could be used to like stab someone or hurt someone in some way.
Oh my
So
God.
people don't have tents that they're living in. All they have is like a piece of tarp that they've gathered, and they try to take like wood and like make, it's kind of like, it's like an extreme game of pillow fort, except instead
Yes.
of pillows you have tarps. And like everyone is just trying to construct some sort of a shelter. And so the 2 million people that used to mostly be in Gaza City have all been scrunched down into this 5 mile by 5 mile area. So 2 million people living in 30 miles squared. And in the center of that is this hospital called Aqsa Hospital, one of 3 hospitals that are still standing and operational, out of the 36 that used to be in the strip. The rest of them have all been bombed and destroyed. And when I say like bombed and destroyed, I mean the hospital has been hit, forces have gone in and like shot up dialysis machines, shot up the labs, shot up any like usable supply. So it's not even pretending to like accidentally have hit the hospital. The hospitals are destroyed. And
Wow.
even though they say that, well, they were being used as command and control centers, there's been no evidence verified by like third parties. There's no evidence that any of these hospitals were used as command and control centers. Certainly the hospital that I was in, it had one desktop computer from the 1990s. It was a Dell.
Oh
Like,
my God. It was
they
a
got
Dell.
a Dell, bro.
They
Yeah.
got a Dell. They had
Um,
one.
yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember this, but Dell, like, they used to have these commercials like, I got a Dell, bro.
Yeah. Oh,
And it
I
was
remember
like a
them.
big deal. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like a big deal because Dell used to come with like a lifetime warranty. Like, thank God they had a Dell, because like
Thank
it was
God.
still functioning.
Right?
And
Not
like
a
very
Commodore.
slowly. Oh my gosh, one time I saw, so one of the things about the society in Gaza is that they're very much trying to keep their society together. So if a child's parents are killed, that child immediately gets absorbed into the family.
Oh man.
Whether it's aunts, uncles, if there's no aunts or uncles, neighbors, whatever it is. And the hospital workers, the nurses, the doctors there, they would try to cheer up the kids who'd lost family members. And one of the funniest things I saw was they had pulled a table in front of this one Dell that was there for us to look at images on, and they'd sat this child on top of it and put the keyboard in the kid's lap, and the kid was playing Snake, like that.
Oh my God.
On like I don't know how they loaded that game on there, but like Snake, which is like you used to play on the like little Nokias, with
Yes.
just a little, yeah. And the kid was like fascinated. He was like, "Whoa, this is like so crazy." But it was just a very sweet thing, and I did think to myself, like, it's funny to think a command and control center could be like, orchestrated from this one Dell computer, and like there was no weapons in the hospital. There was nobody who could, possibly be mistaken for anyone doing anything nefarious. There were patients, lots and lots of patients, and there was this incredible workforce of doctors and nurses who were displaced themselves. Most of them were from Gaza City.
From the north.
Yes, they weren't. They're very, very clear. We're not from Central Gaza.
Oh
Like,
my
so,
gosh.
now they were living in Central Gaza in these like makeshift tents, and they would come to the hospital every day and work, no pay. They were just volunteers. They would
Wow.
work, they would take care of the wounded, and they would go home and like sleep on the cold mud floor with these like, tarps kind of trying to cover them. Most of them with like families of their own, babies of their own. Like, I don't know about you, but well, you probably love your job because your job is great. But and yeah, don't tell the people at my work this, but I don't know that I would go into work if I wasn't getting paid. Like,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it might be different if there was, a global pandemic or like a war or something. Then I guess, yeah, we do go into work, but like to go in every day and not get any pay, just be there because it was the right thing to do, just keep your society functioning because it was the right thing to do. That was one of the things I think. Oh, and the other thing, the people who clean the hospital, it was a crew
Oh
of
my
men
God.
in their 20s. There was not a drop of blood that fell on the floor, not one speck of vomit, that they wouldn't all be there with their mops, like cleaning it up, sprinkling their disinfectant, cleaning up. And it was like this. I always had a clean floor to walk on, which is not the case here for sure. Like it takes a little while to like,
I've been to
get.
ERs recently. It's not like that.
It's not like that. It's not like that. And it's not, I mean, it's just like their work ethic. They were like, this is our job in this society. It's all hands on deck. We're the only ones who are going to make our
Oh
society
my
function
God.
because there's no police, there's no security, there's no government. Everything has been destroyed. They're coming in and making their society work the way it's supposed to because it's the right thing to do. And like that, the other thing I didn't realize about Gaza, I'm sorry, there's all these things that
No,
I
I
want.
want to hear them all.
Yeah. Gaza, 99.9% of the people are extremely educated
Wow. Okay.
because Gaza is a place with no options. Like there's no chance of you really being able to easily make something out of your life even before the war. And so every Gazan mama, there's like an archetype that I didn't know about, but the archetype is every Gazan mama like standing above her kid with a slipper in her hand, but being like, you better get 100% on this test. And like,
It's
yeah,
the
like the
Gaza
kid.
tiger mom.
Exactly. And
Wow.
and they're super, super educated. So there was not anybody who I had a conversation with who was anything less than like somebody in a graduate school here. Like that's the level of education I felt I was talking to all the time.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
really, yeah.
Oh, see, yeah, and it's interesting because we talk about that even like in California with the fires recently.
Hmm.
People aren't relying. Of course, FEMA is going to be helpful, but
Yeah.
people are relying on each other. People are stepping up for each other. And I really do feel as an anthropologist, we talk about, humans are selfish. We all are about competition. And it's like, no, the core, I feel like, tenet of, and value of humans is cooperation, because otherwise we would not have cities. We would not
Yeah.
have civilization, or even, even small groups without some sort of cooperation. And this sounds like the ultimate example. I
Yeah.
know that some of the doctors, you've told me some funny stories about how they've made light of what's been going on, because,
Yeah.
laughter, I feel like, is not only the best medicine in so many ways, but it's the only way that you can make sense of horrible tragedies like that. So if you want to share
Yeah.
any stories, there's one
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. I would love to. So, okay. So jokes, like both jokes all jokes that they have made up during the war, and also jokes on that they like to play on people, especially us foreign doctors visiting,
ah,
are like rampant. Um, and and I will say this one thing, some people asked me like, how can you come back and be okay? And I keep saying, I'm okay because they're okay. They laugh, they celebrate, they everybody gets one meal a day, because like that's kind of the maximum. I mean, now it's much
wow.
less, but at the time that I was there, it was one meal a day, including me, and at one meal a day. Um, and it's usually like a plate about this big, and has like hummus or like sometimes avocado. They were very
Ooh,
surprised to find out that California has avocado. It was really funny. They're like, "You have this avocado?" They call it avocado, and I'm like,
avocado.
"Yes." I was like, "Yes, we do have avocado." Really? Like,
And wait, do most of them speak English as well, right? I mean,
yeah, the doctors and the nurses surely do. They all learn English. It's a matter of like how much chance they've had to practice.
got it. Okay.
So, yeah, so pretty, I mean, it was easy to like make myself understood for the most part. Um they because I don't speak Arabic, I guess I should say that. I don't speak Arabic, but I could, you know, we could get by. But and they all have the one plate, and they'll have like a piece of bread or rice, and they'll all like dip in and eat from the same, food. Which, like, one of my saddest realizations was when I came back at the airport and I was eating my food by myself, and it felt so strange to be eating by myself. But the thing that made me sad is that soon that wouldn't be a strange feeling anymore. Like it was going to
Yeah.
become normal for me to be like, um, but anyway, so they have this one meal a day, and in the north they have even less. Like in the north, they were eating like chicken feed and like grass. Like they
Wow.
were barely getting by. This one doctor, or I mean, sorry, he was a nurse, but he was part of the hospital administration, and we were sitting around this round table talking about how things are, and he was like, yeah, it's been really tough. We're living in almost famine. We don't have any food to eat. We've all lost so much weight. And everyone was like, "Yeah, we've lost so much weight, but no one's lost more weight than him. Like, let us show you some pictures of how he used to look." And they showed me these pictures of this kind of like chubby guy, like who was probably like, I don't know, maybe like 300 pounds or so. Like, he had a good amount of chub on him.
That's a pretty, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy sitting in front of me was, like, almost gaunt, like, you could see, like,
Oh,
like, a little bit of Ozempic face almost, like, he,
yes.
like, very high cheekbones, and he, like, looked really
Very
skinny.
LA.
Exactly, exactly, and he's just like, "Yeah, this used to be me." He held up his phone, and he's like, "This is me now," and I was just like, "Oh my god, I was about to cry, like, I was so sad imagining that in like a year he had lost more than 100 pounds. And as soon as he saw me about to cry, he goes, "I'm just kidding. I got bariatric surgery right before the war." He's like, "I was trying to lose weight." And he's like, "But what a waste of money. Like, I didn't even have to get bariatric surgery. It would have just ended up here anyway." And I was
Oh
like, "Oh,
God.
wow." But,
Yeah.
I mean, like, still a sense of humor about it. There's another joke they told me. Most of the people like had their houses bombed, and when your house gets bombed, your electronics break. Like, think about how easy it is to break a cell phone screen, right? Most of them had no cell phones because their houses had been destroyed. And cell phones, I mean, were not being allowed in. That's one of the blocked items because dual use. And so they like anytime someone comes in, they're like, "Can you bring an extra phone? Can you bring an extra phone?" Um, and this one guy tells me this joke. He goes, "Yeah, have you heard the one about the really old Palestinian guy?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, so he's walking and he has his cell phone in his back pocket, and he sits down and he hears a crack, and he's like, 'Oh man, I hope that was my spine breaking and not my cell phone.'"
This is
Dark
the
humor.
gallows humor that I freaking
Yeah,
love because it's,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, this is the way that you get through. I can't imagine. I have to give a shout out. My unfinished sock has liked and shared the stream. Thank you very much. I love an unfinished sock. The finished socks,
Yeah.
not so much into. So what was I mean, it sounds like the morale on the ground really did. It's better than you would assume, but
I think when
who
I was there, there was a lot of hope that there was a ceasefire coming. I came back to the US January 1st. And the ceasefire happened on like January 19th or 20th. And there was so much hope at that point. And I think the morale has plummeted since the bomb started dropping again because it was the joy of watching people walk back up the beach road. There's one main road, Salahuddin Road, that goes through the Gaza Strip, and walking on that road back up to the north to live in
to
Gaza
the
City
north?
again.
Yeah.
um, and people were, they knew that their houses were going to be destroyed, but they were like, "We're going to go back and we're going to rebuild our city." And I think that taking that joy and hope and crushing it again has really done hor horrible things to the morale that was there when I was there. Um, yeah, sorry, you were gonna ask a
No.
question, I just
No, no, no. No, well, I mean, we I want everyone to read your New Yorker article, by the way. Everybody who's watching, please read the New Yorker article because it's a beautiful article about, hopeless cases and hopeful cases. I don't know if you want to maybe discuss some of the hopeful ones or the hopeless
Yeah.
too, because I also know that one of your hopeful cases, the day the ceasefire ended, she lost family members, so it was immediately felt a little hopeless again. So
Yeah.
take us on that journey.
So the okay, so I had mentioned how the hospitals in Gaza were being targeted. Um, Shifa Hospital, which is their largest medical center that had like an endovascular lab and all the fancy stuff that hospitals usually have, completely destroyed. But along with it, the specialists, so people who had done like orthopedic training, pathology, they were being targeted and killed. One particular director of Shifa Hospital, he was killed because the hostages that were taken had injuries and he had operated on them to help them, right? So like these hostages were brought to him as an orthopedic doctor and he had operated on them, saved many of them, and then he was killed because they said that he was Hamas since he had operated on the hostages, he must be Hamas. I mean, doctors, we
Oh
take an
wow.
oath to treat whoever is put in front
Yeah.
of us. He wasn't just killed though. He was taken to what is effectively a concentration camp. There's two of them that exist along the Gaza-Israel border that the United States knows of. There's no legal recourse there. You are taken, tortured. And an Israeli surgeon who had done his postmortem attested to the fact that he died because he had been serially raped and his bowels
Oh
had
my.
perforated because he had been like, raped with like various objects and things like that. Um, and he was one of the orthopedic surgeons. There's another handful that were also killed. There were pathologists that were killed. But what it does is it not only do you not have a hospital that you can operate in, you also don't have the specialty care to operate in those hospitals. So most of the people that were in the emergency department, there's me, I'm emergency trained. and there was a few other emergency trained doctors, but most of them were general practitioners. So essentially, like, if you're a medical student, you graduate, you do a year of internship, and then you're like, okay, work in the ER. And that's not what emergency medicine is. Emergency medicine is a specialty that requires the training, and the training is so that you know what the life-saving intervention is that needs to be done, and so that you can predict what the like, you can quickly triage, like, there's 20 people here, these are the people I can work on that I can really help, these are the people that no matter what I do, they're gone, and these are the people that can wait a little while, and so you make these categories in your head, and you, like, get to work. And one of the things that these, I call them kids because, like, to me they were kids, but you know, these doctors who were quite young, one of the beliefs that they had was that if there's brain matter coming out from a head injury, so you know, you see an open wound and you see brain coming out, that's a hopeless case. And I think it makes sense in a global way. If you think about it, you're like, yeah, why would someone survive when half their brain is like out on the
I
table?
mean, a
Yeah,
layperson, yeah,
like
like
a
myself might
layperson,
be
yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, like, I even had to, like, I had to, like, kinda try to look up, and then when I came back, I finally asked one of our neurosurgeons, I was like, "Does it mean that they're gone if there's brain matter out? Because I understand that there's a correlation that, like, the mechanism of injury, if there's a bullet, yeah, like, that means they're gone, but not because there's brain matter coming out, it's just because of the bullet." And in fact, now we all know, because I'm about to tell
Mhm.
you, brain matter coming out of the brain in and of itself is a survivable injury. So, um,
Yes.
yes. So when kids would come in that had like shrapnel or other things going through their skull or head injuries, and there was brain matter coming out, everyone would say hopeless case. Like it was like hope, and they would say hopeless case because there's no P in Arabic. So, so they'd say hopeless case.
Oh.
And you know, I kind of for a little bit almost was like, "Oh yeah, maybe that sounds right. That probably is hopeless." But then there was this little girl that came in and it was Sila. I would
Mm.
later find out. But she had some brain matter coming out and I was like, "Don't know every other thing I know about injuries." Like she was 3 years old and she was still like moving a little bit. She was still breathing on her own and I was like, "I'm going to intubate her and I'm just going to try. Let's see what happens." So they were all like, "No, no, hopeless case," and I was like, "Let's just try. Let's just, you know, I'm the idiot. Like, teach me why this is a hopeless case." So, like, you know, we intubated her with a breathing tube in to take over her breathing. We sedated her, managed to get a CT scan, which you have to go to another hospital for to get because the
Wow.
CT scanner, yeah, the CT scanner in Aqsa Hospital is broken, and the missing part is not allowed to be like brought in because of the blockade.
Oh
So
my
we
god.
got Sela to another hospital, but the neurosurgeon is at our hospital. So we got the CT, then she was brought back. Then I had to go and find the neurosurgeon because there's no pagers, there's no cell phones, there's like no overhead system. So I'm like walking around the hospital looking for the guy, and then I like finally get him, and I'm like, "Hey, can you come look at this girl?" They had literally sent a piece of paper, like a little scrap piece of paper with this writing on it that was the CT scan read. And essentially, the read amounted to hopeless case. Like,
Oh.
because like the CT scan read was, it was like long, but it was just little on this written scrap because there's no paper. Paper is also not allowed in because of the blockade. So people
What?
have to like tear up paper. Yeah, this is how they do it. So they're tearing up all the old paper they had, and he'd like the radiologist had written it down, and but I looked at the images, which was no easy feat because remember, there's one Dell computer, and the images like load at a rate of like I don't know 2 megabytes per second, which or like something that's very slow. But I like uploaded the picture and I looked at it and I was like, I don't think this is a hopeless case. Like called the neurosurgeon and I was like, can you look at the CT? And he was just like, okay, we'll take her to the OR. So like they took her to the OR. They like removed a piece of her skull. They washed out the part, you know, that was affected, put it back together. There's no disinfectants because of the blockade. There's no surgical tools for pediatrics because of the blockade. There's very few antibiotics because of the blockade. There's no
Oh.
ability to culture the wound because of the blockade. But despite all this, Sela got operated on, and the next day she was like moving, maybe her hand. She wasn't really talking. Some of those pictures that you had shown were her when she was not doing well. Um, she got infected. She got antibiotics. She got she had like a phobia of needles. So
Oh,
there was actually like a child psychiatrist who like brought her these syringes to play with so she would have, some idea of like what they do and like learn about them. So but eventually she got better and she managed to walk out of the hospital shortly before I left. And
oh,
I still get like messages from her. And it's funny because in the messages, she's extremely annoyed that she has to make this message. You know, like I imagine having a 4-year-old in front of like a
yeah.
phone and being like, say
Oh,
it. And she's like, I love you, Dr. Aisha. Thank you, Dr. Aisha. I like one day I'm waiting for her to go like, fuck you, Dr. Aisha. Like,
Aisha.
and I want to go play.
Oh,
So, but like, yeah, it's always like her trying to say the thing that she knows she's supposed to say so she can go do what she wants to do.
yeah.
Um, which is
She's
like
such a
usually
kid.
she's such a kid. Yeah.
Such a kid.
And really that's the thing that gives me hope is that like here's a girl who in last June, her house was bombed. Her parents and her one brother were killed. Her aunt took her in, and then her aunt's house was bombed. Her aunt was sleeping in the same bed as her. Was her aunt was instantly killed. Sela was brought to the hospital. That's the injury that she was brought to me with. She wakes up and there's a completely different aunt taking care of her. And she has one brother left. So the one brother was there and this other aunt. And she like all she knows is that she's got like the worst headache of her life. She doesn't know what's going on because she's only like 4 years old. She goes home um you know now like her life is that she gets to play with her cousins. There's people that are missing in her life and every once in a while she has to make these videos where she says I love you, Dr. Aisha.
Aisha.
You know,
Oh,
this is her life now.
oh,
But then the ceasefire, I wrote that the piece in the New Yorker about her and then messaged the day of the ceasefire being violated and her uncle was killed that day by a bomb
wow.
dropping on their house, yeah. So, he has lost a lot, and despite that, she's playing she likes to make eggs. Eggs are, like, a not very common in the marketplace, so she likes to
Aw.
cook she, like, cooks pretend eggs and feeds them to her imaginary family, so,
Oh my
yeah.
God. Oh, I love that. Hold
So
on one second. We have a
yeah.
comment real quick by My Unfinished Journey. Hail Nero, hail Natalia, and Dr. Khan, and down with genocide. Which we'll get to that in a minute because
Yeah.
it's such a
Loaded word.
complicated, it's a loaded word, but also like, it's a little sad when the term causes more discomfort than the actual action of genocide. I want to, yeah, maybe this is the good time to pivot, and because there's a lot of things, hold on, that I
Yeah.
wanted, that there's so much, I feel like I so much I want to talk to you about. And
Yeah.
I actually want to share a quote because Aisha wrote a wonderful, little piece that she hasn't published yet, but I hope you do soon,
Mhm.
about this idea of talking about Gaza and why it is complicated. And sharing your story, a lot of people have lost jobs, have lost, in the film industry, lost agents, lost projects by just saying,
Mhm.
hey, ceasefire, good.
Yeah.
And you and I've talked about how two things can be true at the same time. We can condemn the acts of Hamas, but also condemn the
Mhm.
acts of the Israeli government. But you wrote, I just got back from Gaza and I can't tell you how it was because whatever words I use, they are the wrong ones. Call it genocide, call it extreme population discouragement, call it whatever you like. Arguing over terminology while people are dying is the ultimate failure of humanity. So I want to talk to you about the word genocide and why this word is so controversial, and what did you see and what do you feel about what's happening in Gaza?
So the word genocide is difficult, and So I will be the first to say, if you don't want to call it a genocide, don't. I don't really care. What matters is that we save the people that are there.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm telling my stories is because I want people to realize that these are true, actual human beings that are there. You know, like kids that like to make imaginary eggs,
Yeah.
dudes that make jokes about their bariatric surgeries, like people getting married and having kids, like amidst all this. Like it's a very real group of human beings that are there, that I absolutely fell in love with. But the difficulty about using the word genocide, genocide is a word that was coined after the Holocaust. That's the most well-known genocide probably in our lifetimes. And the idea of the word genocide is that there is an intent to eliminate a population based on their ethnography, their religion, their what have you, XYZ. Um, Intent is the difficult part of that definition,
Yeah.
because to prove intent, yeah, if someone writes Mein Kampf, sure, the intent is right there. People don't quite do that anymore. They don't like say like, hey, it's our intent to eliminate these people, because like then yeah, they'll be guilty of genocide. I think though that as much as that's a legal definition of genocide, there should probably be a medical definition of genocide, which is when you are targeting an entire generation of people and eliminating them such that they cannot reproduce or cannot survive, and they are heading towards extinction. That is a genocide. And the let's call it the genocide enablement apparatus that is occurring in Gaza is not just the bombs. It's the dismantling of the healthcare system. It's targeting of reproductive healthcare. Um, you know, the United States is not the only country where reproductive health is being dismantled and taken away. There's also no reproductive health care in Gaza. So we saw kids that had bullets, you know, in their lower abdomen. It's like, why are you shooting them? Why are you shooting kids with sniper bullets? And why are you shooting right where their reproductive organs are?
Wow.
It's just, and even, you know, March 2nd till now, there has not been any aid let in. So there's no food in Gaza. All of the crops, the animals that used to farm, they're all destroyed. There's no food except for what comes in on the outside. And since March 2nd, zero aid trucks have gone in. So that means there's no water, there's no food, there's nowhere for these people to eat. The people are being concentrated into one area. So all the people that were sent up north, they're being told to go back into this 30-mile area, and bombs are dropping on that area, and there's no food to eat. And the people who are injured have no health care to help them. So like, what are we heading for? You know, like there are people who have used the word like this is the final solution. Um, I mean, you saw the beachfront, right? Like, there's this
Yeah.
whole thing about Trump wanting to build
Ugh.
beachfront properties, and like, I kind of laughed at that at the beginning, but now I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. It's if that is the play, whether or not that's the play, Gaza will soon be empty of human beings if we keep walking down this pathway. And I think that is the important part to get across. And I want to be able to tell people of the love and the life and how full of personal responsibility and collective action this group of human beings were. Like they are the best of us. And if we can just see them as human beings, I think like it becomes very, very apparent.
Well, I think that's what when we discussed, you and I were talking yesterday just about what has been restricted in terms of like, journalists and being able to share, a lot of times people who are sharing stories are being targeted because when you
Mhm.
see people as humans, that promotes empathy. And, we're seeing a bit of an empathy gap because I think a lot of these stories are not being told. Do
Mhm.
you feel like that if people, I feel like I know the answer already, but by you sharing your stories and by sharing your pictures and your, recollection of your time there, you are part of promoting empathy. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I hope so. I really, I really want to capture my stories as I was experiencing them, because I think that being on the outside, you just get so far removed from what was actually there. I went out shortly before Christmas because it was about to be Christmas. Christmas got canceled in Jerusalem. I don't know if you know about this, but like they decided to cancel Christmas because, all there was so much destruction. They were like, we're not celebrating. But I went out a day, maybe day or two before Christmas, because I was like, I wonder what the kids are playing with. Like back home, kids are going to get all these toys. These kids aren't, able to go to school and there's no toys, there's no stores. I wonder what they're playing with. And I have this beautiful series of things that the kids were playing with, and they've set up bakeries like out of like rubble, basically. Like they took little tiles, and a certain color tile is the dough and a certain color tile is like the bread that they make with it, and certain people come to their bakery and buy the bread from them. So I mean, their imagination is like limitless. And there's parts of the war that are woven into it, like they make sure to sift the flour, which is something they didn't used to have to do before the war. They have to do it now because the flour is so old, it has bugs in it.
Oh
So they've
God.
incorporated all of these
Yeah.
practices, and I just thought to myself, like, they're doing all of these things they used to do before the war, like pretending to bake bread, and they've incorporated parts of what has happened to them, but that's not the whole story. Like, I really hope that these kids can grow up and maybe, they sift the flour and there's little bits of what they went through that are incorporated into the story. But beyond that, they're still building these worlds that are much more than that. There's a question here. Are there any plans to educate the youth in these areas to plant the seed of peace for the future? I mean, these kids haven't gone to school for, 18 months. And I I mean, they were, you remember the Gaza mother with like, the tiger mom.
Yep.
Um, they were all very highly educated. I think that whatever adults are in their lives are still trying to educate them. But the problem is, what do you tell these kids that they have to live for? They are in a devastated hellscape. The only beautiful thing remaining besides the people is the beach, really.
Yeah.
The rest of the country is absolutely devastated. And it really scares me, but there are children who are wishing for death. I've never in my life seen 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds say, "I wish I could die." And the reason for that is because they don't have anything to live for. Like, they, probably to some degree think that death is inevitable. Everyone around them is dying, their families may have died. Um, and to it's hard to look around at Gaza and think that there could be anything there beyond the devastation that's there. And, a child who has nothing to live for is a very scary thing.
Hmm.
And I don't think that the seeds of peace are going to be sown by giving these children nothing to live for. You were talking about cooperation. Josh Johnson, who's a comedian, one of the things that I was just listening to one of his shows, and he was talking about how your neighbors are your future. Look around you, your neighbors are the ones who are going to help you get through anything thick and thin. And Israel and Gaza are neighbors. The only way to have a secure Israel is to have a prosperous Gaza. Like, that's it. Everything else you do is just temporary until the dams break. And with nothing to live for, the dams will break really easily. But if you have a prosperous Gaza, and we know this because in World War II, we rebuilt Germany and we made them
Yeah.
one of our closest allies. So we know that this is the way that things work. In World War I, we didn't so much help rebuild Germany, and so World War II happened. And the
Yep.
cycle goes on. So we have to fix Gaza, because that is the only way we will get to a secure Israel, and a secure and peaceful Israel is the only way that we can have, this huge portion of our economic and military might not have to go to defending Israel, and that's how we'll get a secure America. Like, it's
Right.
all connected. Um, and yes, I know that there's Hamas in Gaza. I know this, but that's not the majority. And Do you want to go through the math?
Yes, let's go for actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So Aisha broke down the math for me in such a beautiful way yesterday because I have posted videos and articles that Aisha has written about her time in Gaza, and I have gotten a lot of misinterpretations and conceptions that everybody in Palestine supports Hamas, and she broke it down beautifully, and I'd love her to do it right now.
Okay.
Gaza by the numbers.
Gaza by the numbers. So the people who are alive in Gaza right now, more than 50% are children under the age of 18. Okay. So that aside, if you look at the people who could vote in 2006, which is when Hamas was elected, you have to be 36 years old or older to have voted for them. That is only 40% of the population at maximum. So, of that 40% of the population, not everybody voted for Hamas because um, Hamas actually won 44% to 41% against the other party, which is called Fatah. So I know we know close elections here in the US, right? Like not everybody voted for Trump. Only about half the country did, or a little bit more than half. So that's, that gives you about 20% of people that may have voted for Hamas. Of that 20%, there are only 6% left alive. That's it. The rest have all been killed. So 6% of the entire population that is in Gaza right now voted for Hamas. Maybe.
Wow.
Probably even less than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That means 94% of the people you are bombing did not want this government in place or did not have a chance to say that they wanted this government in place. And even if they did, like even the person who voted for Trump, should they be held accountable for every foreign policy decision Trump makes? Probably not. A lot of people are
No.
regretful already. And I will tell you, I just used to like to do like my own kind of Gallup survey of like, what are the people in Gaza thinking?
Mhm.
So, my one of my favorite questions was like, so do you support Hamas? What do you think of what happened on October 7th?
Yeah.
No one. And by and large, they'll say like, maybe before October 7th happened, some people supported Hamas, but like since October 7th and this war, nobody supports them. And we just like we want to give back the hostages and we just want our lives back. And I think Hamas too, like it seems like they're trying to give back the hostages, but there's just like all these conditions. I don't know. I don't want to defend Hamas in any way, shape, or form, but visiting this kind of wrath on 94% of the people is just absolutely ridiculous, who had nothing to do with Hamas. And nobody really wants to own Hamas and what they did.
Yeah.
Um,
And I will say this because like I remember when you told me this yesterday that you asked people, you were very honest, like, hey, what are your thoughts? And given, and I think you're okay with me mentioning that. I mean, you're from Pakistan, you're a
mhm,
Muslim, you are a safe person for them to possibly confide in. Someone
mhm.
that looks like me, probably not, right? And they still have empathy. They still were, told you what they thought, which is they do not support Hamas. And that was the thing that I think has been the hardest for me to
Yeah,
talk to people about, is hearing from folks that are staunch believers that all Palestinians support Hamas, that children who have been targeted, somehow it's okay because their parents support Hamas, and that is just not the case.
yeah, yeah. And actually, like even I I do think it's important also, like on the religion point. You saw the list of countries that I've gone to help. They're not all Muslim countries. They're actually mostly not Muslim countries. I don't
Mhm.
really think of um I just think of people as people, and every person deserves to have a chance at life. But what did surprise me is that there was nobody in Gaza who talked about religion as being any of the reason for any of this. Like I actually had people say
Mm.
to me, like, we know that there are Jews all across the world who are good people and who would be appalled at what's happening here. We know that like Judaism is not the reason this is happening. This is Israel, and we don't have anything against Jewish people. but like Israeli people who are bombing us and killing us and taking our land, like that's the problem. And even like the nuance of like not all Israeli people are like that was something that, existed. So I think that like I think the like guilt by association argument doesn't really hold unless you completely turn a blind eye to like what and who people are. And
Yeah.
I know like I certainly don't want the guilt by association argument for me. Like I would help anybody who was put in front of me. Um, just
Right.
remind me. There was like this one kid who came into the ER and he was just like this really mischievous, like 11 or 12-year-old, you know? You could tell like he had this like twinkle in his eye and I could
Yep.
tell he was waiting to talk to me because he knew I was a foreigner and he had like 5 words of English that he knew. So he like came up to me and he's like, "You love Trump?"
Ah!
I was like, "No."
No.
And he's like, "You love Sinwar?" Sinwar was like the Hamas head who's been killed.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, "You love Sinwar?" And I was like, "What is wrong with you, kid? Shut the fuck up. No, I don't."
No.
And he's like, "Oh, you love Trump?"
Oh my
He
God.
knew, like he knew that he was like
Yeah.
just
He
like
was
getting it
poking.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
He
And
was
he just
poking you.
and the more I would be like, "No," he'd just like burst out laughing, and then he'd be like, "You love Sinwar?"
I mean,
No
that's the
kid.
thing it's crazy. I mean, when you think about what's going on there and they still find moments to just razz their
Yeah,
UN humanitarian aid worker. I
yeah.
just love it. They're just like, "I'm gonna get her. I'm gonna get her." So, I I don't I have a feeling well, we talked about this before about who you mostly treated while you were in Gaza. I mean, who were most of your patients?
Most of my patients were kids between the ages of 5 and 7. And just population demographic wise, if you drop a bomb and more than 50% of your population is under 18, you're more likely to hit a kid. Um, but also, uh, the bombing was happening in the humanitarian areas, the humanitarian zones, which are supposed to be safe. And the way that it was justified was like they would send text messages to people who have phones, but like not everyone has phones, or drop leaflets that say like we're gonna bomb here and you've got a couple of hours to evacuate. Yeah,
They would drop leaflets?
yeah, yeah,
They would like, "What? This like
yeah,
like a marketing campaign, you know?
yep,
Hey,
yep,
everybody, how's
yep.
your day going? We're
We're
gonna"
about
what?
to bomb. Yeah, yeah. So like you can imagine. And you know this from the fires, right? Like in California, we're told to have a go bag ready, like in
Yes,
case
of
the fire
course.
is coming. But for these people, their entire life was a go bag, right? And so if you have like most of the parents are gone and you have like 20 kids living in your house because you've just taken in kids as the kids increase, getting 20 kids ready to go at a moment's notice, like sometime at some point it's just like we're just going to hunker down and hope the bomb doesn't hit us because
Getting 2
there's
kids
nowhere
to get out
safe.
the house sounds like you know what I mean? I have friends that have
Yeah,
children that it takes them, like, 2 hours to get out of the house, like,
yeah.
20 children,
Yeah, and there's no
everything
cars. Like, you're getting out
right?
of the house, but all you're doing is walking as far away as you can because there's no cars, there's no gas. There's some cars, there would be, like, a donkey or a mule trying to pull it, and it was just, like, really sad. Like, even the animals there were so sad because they're gone more than a year without food. So, it's just very, very sad, sad situation.
They would have a donkey pulling a car,
Mhm,
like a horse-drawn carriage.
mhm.
I mean, this is the th I mean, it's like, necessity is the mother of invention, but
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
I mean, it's just heartbreaking, and I remember being living in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and getting a knock on the door, and it was the emergency services letting me know because it was right before the rainy season that, I lived right at the water border, and they said, "If we tell you to leave, leave." Like, it was very
Uh,
serious, and I remember
yeah,
thinking, "I don't have a car, I have a bike." And I, like, turned around and I looked at my apartment full of crap, and I thought, "How does one evacuate on foot?" And this is their day-to-day life.
yeah,
They just have to evacuate, and like you said, you don't know the parameter of the bombing. You don't know where to
yeah,
go.
exactly.
And with drone attacks, I know that you have, experienced had children come in from drone attacks that were specifically targeting kid activities.
Yeah, missiles dropped on soccer games. Um, there were there's a New York Times article actually that it came out before I went to Gaza, but it's 60 healthcare workers attesting to sniper bullets from drones hitting kids. So in the head or in the abdomen. So these are direct targeted bullets going into kids' heads
Children.
and children. And there was another emergency doctor there with me who had come before, and her Sela is this girl named Mira, who was also said to be a
Mhm.
hopeless case. And she Mira actually had a bullet lodged in her head. Um, and the picture of it is really startling because it's like this X-ray of the skull, and you just see a bullet straight lodged into it. And she got a bunch of people, oh, it's fake, that doesn't happen. And she's like, I was there, I touched her, I intubated her, I took her to the neurosurgeon and he took out the bullet. Like, I was there, I touched her, I smelled her, she opened her eyes, and I was overjoyed. um but yeah, to just deny our experience of like US healthcare workers, right? Like, we're here, we saw it. We're not them, we are you. And even if there is an us and them, like I'm as American as as possible under the circumstances of what it means these days to be American. But
Yeah, well,
um, but I consider myself, having grown up in the US since I was 3 years old, I- I'm not lying, you know? I was there, I saw it, I have no reason to lie. I want a secure and prosperous Israel, but I don't think we're gonna get it by bombing and destroying Gaza.
no, I agree. And what do you think the problem is, a sort of empathy gap that we see, uh, where we can feel empathy about one, it's like, I feel like everybody has a little bit of a gap in there. We all have a
Mm,
blind spot. I feel like something that maybe we don't feel sorry for because of whatever bias we
yeah.
might hold. What do you think is the cause, and how can we maybe combat that?
So there's a few things. One, I think that there's been a concentrated effort to keep news coming out of Gaza. Like, we learned in the Vietnam War that you can't win a war if you televise a war. Because the people will turn against this horrible notion of killing people. And so journalists are being killed, as you said. The news we get out of Gaza only shows people at their worst. It doesn't show the life, the laughter, any of like the goodness there. That's part of it. There's an incredible propaganda campaign. Another part of it is that people are very overwhelmed, particularly at the current moment, and don't have the ability to care about everything, right? Do I care
Yeah.
about LGBTQ rights? Do I care about trans women? Do I care about women's reproductive health? Do I care about USAID? Do I care about Medicare and Medi-Cal, Social Security, all of these things that are under attack? It's very hard to care about everything all at once. And then finally, it's really hard to have a sense of hope without having a sense of agency. To have hope, you have to feel that you have agency over a problem and that there is a path to get to what you want. And a faraway war that we have no control over, seemingly, it doesn't matter that the US, the majority opinion is that they are against what is happening in Gaza. Our senators and congresspeople vote to keep sending bombs, to keep sending money to Israel for this war. And there's a very strong lobby group that is making sure that that happens. APEC, which their interest is Israel and the survival of Israel at any cost. And I will say again, my interest is also the survival of Israel, but not at any cost. My interest is like, let's just make it so that everybody can survive.
Yeah.
Um, and so, people don't know what to do. And so here it is. I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to
Yes.
tell you what you can do because this will
Give me
help.
the hope.
JVP, the Jewish Voices for Peace. If you sign up with them, they have automatic letters that go to Congress people every time there is a vote that is salient coming up. So you literally fill in who you are, and where you live, and it'll like California, Aisha. It'll my Congress people, who happens to be Nancy Pelosi, and my senators will get a letter from me saying vote this way on this issue. Super easy to do. It's like 2 clicks and you're done. If you do that every day, you're going to make a difference because your voices will be heard. Number two, there's very little humanitarian aid going in, and there's very little human beings that are allowed in. So doctors were being allowed in, and now 50 to 80% of doctors are being denied from going in. So there's a concentrated effort to keep Gaza out of the news, and to keep the reality of it out. So let's use social media, and I'm going to plug Blue Sky because Instagram, TikTok, they're all contaminated. Blue Sky is the only one with a narrative that is
What
free
is
and
your handle on
transparent.
Blue Sky?
It's a great question. I think it's Akhan X, AKHANX. I will
I'll
double
make
check
sure
right
with
now.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll put it. I want to
Um,
make sure that people see it.
yeah. My first and only post on Blue Sky is my New Yorker article, and I was like, well, it's kind of hard to top that, so I haven't posted anything else. But I have gotten off of Instagram and Facebook because evil empire. Here, I'm gonna
Yep.
put it in the chat. So yeah, I think that creating the news ourselves and creating an awareness of what is going on is vitally important. And you can even just do that by like participating. This Saturday there was protests across the US, not only for Gaza but also like all of the other nonsense. And so I think like being a part of those. And then lastly, if you want to give money, like don't necessarily give money to organizations because it's not getting in. There are groups like the Borgen Project is a really good one,
Oregon.
BORGEN, the
Okay.
Borgen Project, that goes and advocates for these issues on the Hill. So
Oh,
that
great.
way, yeah.
Yeah.
So that way your money will get to be used in order to influence our politicians, which I think is probably the way to go now. And the other thing is like share stuff like this if you thought this was interesting, or like my article, or like Dr. Mimi on Instagram is the woman who was there with me who helped Mira. She posts a lot about what's going on. She's a great person to follow as well. So it's just Dr. Mimi. I think that's
Dr.
her
Me.
handle on
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah. And I feel like, I mean, you're such a wonderful storyteller because I think that's the thing that I've learned as a science communicator, that facts and stats, we can talk about the numbers, can only change so many hearts and minds, but it's really the storytelling and the lived
Yeah.
experience that you have that is going to change people's perspectives. So, you
I hope
know,
so. Yeah.
oh, I
It's
think
that
you.
English major coming out again. You want me to tell a story? Sure.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly. Come on, kids, pull up a stool. We're doing this. Oh my goodness. No, this is and also you've done some TV appearances about the USAID, and I wanted to just sort of address what
Yeah.
exactly is USAID, because I know that a lot of, there's all these buzzwords about going around
Yeah.
because, we're now forced to know about these things. What exactly
Yeah.
is it?
USAID is part of the United States government, which was created to give humanitarian aid to places around the world. I think I'm not going to say that Nixon created it. I know he created the EPA, but I'm not sure if he created
He did something
USAID.
right.
Yeah, he did. He did actually like a weird number of things right, which was the creation of a bunch of agencies and organizations that would help us sort of regulate around things that were important to the existence of humanity, like the environment.
Hmm.
And USAID particularly. So the USAID stickers on every USAID project, there's a USAID sticker and it says aid from the American people.
Oh,
And that every time I see that, it makes me cry because that's what it is. It is aid from the American people. It's our tax money being used to help the world. And that is the most beautiful pure part of what it means to be an American, in my opinion. Um, USAID has projects all around the world, including in Gaza. It was the largest funder of the IMC hospital, International Medical Corps Hospital, which was a field hospital that we would not have been able to function with without while I was there. They would take people from the field. So, field hospital, imagine a tent that's kind of been, set up as a hospital. They were doing hundreds of surgeries every day. In the time that they were open, they served 500,000 people, so half a million
Wow.
people,
Wow.
shut down because no more USAID. So so really a devastating loss to the area because what do you do with all those people? Well, all those people are going to go to Aqsa, and Aqsa is like, barely hanging on. Like we have one bottle of alcohol to use as a disinfectant per month. One bottle. I don't know if you remember COVID, one
Oh
bottle of
my
alcohol does not
God.
go very far. Yeah. Yeah.
No. You wiping down all your vegetables. No, but that,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, the devastation, not only in Gaza, but across the world, uh, from the dismantling of USAID is only going to come back to bite us in the ass because this kind of soft power showing the world what America is about, which the American people are not about bombs. They're not about buying Greenland or like, invading other countries or what have you.
Yeah.
By and large, the American people are about helping our neighbors. And it doesn't matter if those neighbors are the persons that live in the house next to you or if those neighbors are, the people across the border from you. Um, and restoring USAID is vital not only to all of these projects around the world, but also to the many, many Americans that were employed by USAID. It's one of these government agencies that has been dismantled really at the expense of the US people. And demanding for it back is like the least we can do. And that's another, like, put that on the list. So that's the fourth thing.
Yes.
Support advocacy groups, give to advocacy groups, ask for USAID to be put back into place and write to your congresspeople and senators because your voice is the most powerful thing you have.
It really is. And I feel like,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, I feel like Americans, I remember when, W was in office, and I was traveling internationally and it was embarrassing to
Yeah.
say I was an American. And now I feel like it's almost scary, to say that you're an American because
Yeah.
of the, uh, you know, um, just the aggressiveness of trying to make changes that, are said to be beneficial for the American people, but they're hurting and people will die because of these decisions,
Mhm.
and not that we need to have USAID out there to protect us, but it's just like you said, the soft power of knowing that Americans do love our neighbors, do want to see people, kids have a
It is what
chance
protects
and develop.
us. It
Yeah.
it is what protects us. For like I think we are deluding ourselves if we think that people are scared of us and that's why they're friendly. No, people like the US. Even if
No.
our politicians not so much, people like what the US was created after, the shining light on the hill, you know?
Yeah.
USAID, by the way, Kennedy, not Nixon, but still.
Okay. Okay, well, that's it. Yeah, 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 wait. I mean, it's around
Yeah.
the same era, but yeah, but no, but this is
Yeah.
it's so important, and of course, I don't want to get too much into it, but it's just the irony of a party that calls themselves pro-life would want to get rid of something that really is
Mhm.
absolutely pro-life,
Yep.
especially of children,
Mhm.
around the
Yeah.
world. Wow. I could talk to you for hours upon hours, but I know that you
Yeah.
have a life that needs to be returned to. But I want to talk to you real quick and ask you, how do you stay so positive and hopeful?
It's all we have. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, to have hope means that, you have agency and man, what American is not born with agency? I feel like we're spoon-fed agency when we're kids. You can do whatever you want. You got freedom.
Yeah.
We're free. And indeed we are. Indeed we are. But agency and then a path forward, and that's why I wanted to get the plug-in for things that you can still do, because it's very easy to feel like you don't have a path forward. And I would say I saw a sociologist who said there's a lot coming at us right now, and we can't do everything. Choose 3 things that you can do something about and start working towards them, and you will also maintain hope and optimism. And this is one of my 3 things. This might be all 3 of my 3 things right now, but yeah, I think that helps. And yeah, I don't know. I also will say I get text messages from my friends on the ground in Gaza every day, and they are still sending me pictures of their kids. They're still sending jokes. They're still sending just like little snippets of their life, their food, their celebrations, their whatever's going on. Um, and rejoicing in that, finding joy where you can, which is the way that the Gazan people are functioning. That's very important.
Oh, and the little Sela messages.
Oh, I love you, Dr.
I just
Aisha. La, 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 la.
I know. I'm sorry that video didn't play, but it's very cute.
Yeah,
I'll have to post it on my Instagram stories. Oh my goodness. Aisha, thank you so much for all of
thank
this.
you.
This was everything you said was beautiful, and I really think that there is so much hope, and
Yeah,
remembering that we do have agency. We do, we've got that sort of American exceptionalism. We're
that's right.
individuals, but we're
That's
individuals
right.
that can make change. And oh, guess who just said we're all magic? Carissa Anderson.
Carissa.
Y'all magic. Thank you, girl. I love you very much. That's our mutual friend. And no, please follow Aisha on all platforms too. Seriously, she's going to be coming out with probably more beautiful articles and storytelling.
Yeah,
And I can't thank you enough for being here. Do you have any final
thank
words?
you.
I feel like, oh, we are DNA. Oh no, she actually
I
she addressed that question.
Any plans to educate the youth? Yeah, sadly, no plans to educate the youth, and I'm not sure that there's even plans to have anybody still alive there at the end of all this. But if they are, and this all finishes, and there's a permanent ceasefire, we'll figure out a way. They will figure out a way to educate the youth. I don't
Yeah.
actually. I'll just put in one last plug. Um, During the Crusades, um, the the Muslim general who was fighting against the European Crusaders, Salahuddin was his name. He created an army that he himself said will never exist again, and it was an army that consisted of all of the people from the Ottoman or Islamic Empire at that time. So it included Moroccans, Africans, people from the Mediterranean, and they won the Crusades handily. But he was like, "This will never happen again. We will never unify these people again." But uh, the taking of Jerusalem during that time was completely peaceful. He walked into Jerusalem, took power, nobody was killed, and he said everyone can live here peacefully. And what he did then was take one great family from each of these countries. So one Moroccan family, one African family, one Middle Eastern Arabic family, one Bedouin family, and he embedded them into the power structure of Jerusalem. And then he appointed from all of them an organization that would go out and create schools and educate people. And those are the people that became the Palestinians. And those Palestinians that went out to educate the people gained a lot of fame. So in Kuwait, even like after the first Gulf War, the Palestinians were the ones who were asked to come and rebuild the education system. So I would say, although there's no plan yet to rebuild the education system for the Palestinians are the ones who would do it anyway. So hopefully they will figure that out, and it will happen as soon as there is enough peace for there to be education.
Oh my goodness. Well, if they need an English teacher.
Yeah.
No, no, no. No, that's a wonderful answer. We are DNA. Thank you for the question. I know that Aisha saw it earlier and kind of addressed it, but we didn't give a shout out to you. But thank you. We
Yeah.
are DNA. And that's a great history lesson too. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a really, it's a beautiful way of making sure that everybody that has, sort of an investment in the infrastructure feels
Mhm.
like they're heard and seen. And I feel like that's what really kind of helps build the community,
Yeah.
and that's what you saw in Gaza. So, Dr. Ayesha Khan, dear friend, hero, global health expert, ER physician, UN humanitarian aid worker. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my
Thank
goodness.
you, Natalia.
Let's do this again. We're gonna have a Oh, and do you want to go back? That was one last question. Would you like to go back?
I would love to go back. I have promised my partner that I will not go back until after there is a ceasefire. I think, and also my mom who's like, I gave up on life while you were there,
Oh,
pretty much, but I don't know that I can, as much as I want to do that again, I think that they would all tell you that I'm not allowed to until there's no more bombs dropping. So the
well,
answer
we're
is
all
yes, I do want to go back.
Well, I'm crossing all appendages and I'll be writing my lawmakers to hopefully make sure that there is a ceasefire. So,
Thank
but
you.
thank you so much. And thank
Yeah,
you
thank
everyone.
you.
Yes, come back again. And I'll see you in a few
Anytime,
weeks.
Natalia. Yes.
Yeah.
See you soon. All right.
Oh,
All right.
goodness gracious. That was such a wonderful, wonderful discussion. I'm so, so, so thrilled I got to talk to you,
Yeah.
Aisha.
Thanks for giving me the chance. Like
Oh,
I tend to babble, but this was really nice because it was just talking to a friend, and I really love that. And hopefully, people who were kind enough to tune in got something out of it.
oh, there was no babbling. Everything you said was really profound, honestly. Yes. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for
Thank you.
everyone for watching. Dr. Aisha Khan, be sure to follow her on all platforms. If you enjoyed this production and want to maybe perhaps subscribe to my Patreon and help support this elaborate show, you can go ahead and do that. You also can like, subscribe, and share with friends and family. Please ask any comments or questions. I can pass them on to Aisha in the future. And be sure to tune in next week. I do not have a guest lined up right this second. I had one and she has to reschedule. So TBD. And I want to thank my amazing producer, Peter. I always call him Doctor on accident. I'm going to just call him Dr. Peter DeTucker.
Dr. Peter, do it.
Dr. Peter. I love Dr. Peter. And yes, this has been another episode of Survival of the Filthiest. I'm going to now announce my wonderful Patreon patrons. So, of wonderful, there we go. Now we're going to have, okay. Thank you very much to Daniel Wynn, Claude Allen, Tom, Skullbeard, or Tori Yates, or Redding Maley. We know Redding Maley.
Hey,
Dana Logan,
Redding.
Michael Z. Weinstock. Hello, Z. David Leitner, James Hudspeth, Anthony Zana, Tom Berman, Jen Beverstock, Scott Froschauer, JSB, Jeff Cohen, Andrea Bloom, and Jonathan Marks. This has been another episode of Survival of the Filthiest. Tune in next week and be sure to stay extra filthy in the next week. Thank you, everyone.